Welcome to CivilNet. My guest today is Hovanes Margarian, an attorney from Southern California, born and raised in Armenia. Hovanes, thanks for joining us on CivilNet.
Thank you for the invitation.
I should have also said you're a USC grad.
Yes.
You're an attorney.
Yes.
But you're more than an attorney. You're also a businessman.
Try to be.
You are part of a new diaspora, I would say. In the old days we used to say diaspora, and that was about me, born in Syria, raised in the US. Now we're talking about an Armenia diaspora, especially in Los Angeles and especially in Moscow. Huh?
Right.
You were how old when you first went to LA?
I was 13 when we moved.
And in those days, this is in the early 90s, right?
1994, independence, new country, 2-3 years, the most chaotic time. Talk
about how it was in the diaspora in LA when you went. Was there this distinct Armenia community?
There was a distinct Armenia community. There was some separation though in terms of diaspora Armenia versus Armenian Armenians who have just arrived in the diaspora. So compared to now where I see more merging, more uniformity. Yes.
Is there more merging
There
now?
is some. I wouldn't say we've reached the point where we've merged completely, but it's much more merged than it was back then.
How was it back then?
If we look at practical day-to-day elements, you might speak one dialect of Armenian and another Armenian might pretend not to understand you or not even try to understand you. So we had those issues growing up, and it bothered me as a child, as a teenager, because I felt we're all Armenians, so if I can try to understand you, why can't you understand me? And there's no right or wrong, but we had that issue. Thankfully, right now, I do not notice it as much, or it could be because as I've grown and I'm in different circles and among more professionals who are more versed in terms of different Armenian dialects, and their intellect is different, so they will not make an issue in terms of which dialect you speak or who you are.
Do you think that there is a difference in the way in which Armenians identify themselves in the diaspora versus those who've come from other countries, in the way in which they engage in community activities?
There is, I believe there is a difference, because a lot of them moved, having seen the struggles here, they moved there, so their mindset is about survival and making it in the diaspora, versus the diaspora, the Armenians who've been there for a few generations. They've passed those stages, so they're looking back to come back more to Armenia, which is ironic. The ones born here are thinking of it less, unfortunately. To them, love for Armenia is more theoretical, so
to which ones?
To the diasporan Armenians, but
the
it's
Western diaspora.
Right, but it's more fueled because basically they grew up reading and learning and hearing about it, so there's this idealistic vision of Armenia, what it should be, what it means to be an Armenian. Therefore, there's a different fire that's burning within them versus the people who've been here, who've struggled and survived and finally have made it out, or they have the connection, but theirs is unfortunately still a struggle of survival, less a struggle of giving back to the point that the diaspora Armenians have.
Isn't it fair to say that that's an immigration generation issue more than a where are you from issue?
Yes, yes. I have an Italian friend who talked about this extensively, and he told me the Armenians from Armenia are about 30-40 years behind the Italians, and in time you'll get to the same stage, and which is true, and I see it. We've talked about this about 10 years from now with this friend of mine, and I see the transitions as they're moving along. Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about also the different ways in which the Armenian engages with Armenia versus the traditional Western diaspora Armenian. It seems to me that the traditional diaspora, because it had these traditional institutions, looks for institutional ways to engage. But the Armenia immigrant finds his own little thing to do. Is that fair? Is that right?
That's true, although I've noticed a lot of the diasporan Armenians who are doing the same. Some of the major donors, they come here, they see the projects, they research it, and they're trying to do it both on the official level but also individually. So we have a mix. I suppose the ones who moved from here to diaspora, they have more of a family connection to Armenia, Yerevan, or wherever they came from. So it's easier for them to reach out to those particular individuals and do whatever they're trying to accomplish.
What are you doing in Armenia, for example? And when did you start?
We started...
Who's we?
With my brother. So anytime I refer to we, I'm talking about my brother, my older brother, Armenian Margarian. We've been partners on everything since I was born, apparently.
Lucky.
Yes. In 2008, we started a business here. Prior to that, actually, we engaged a lot through our university's student association, the Armenian Graduate Student Association at USC. For several years, we would do fundraisers. We'd raise about $30,000, $35,000 annually.
Not bad.
Well, we were the first student association to raise more than $5,000 annually. And we would donate to various associations like Yerkir Fund, Armenia Fund, Armenian Bone Marrow, the Donor Registry, Polytechnic Institute, Glendale Rapan, all of these. We had a vision as young students. We would actually raise the funds, and then we'd host a small luncheon where we'd invite 10, 15 people, and we'd cut checks to each one, 2,000, 5,000. Our idea was that we're doing this to build a better Armenia, and it doesn't matter to us what entity you belong to. So we started out with that. If I may rewind, actually, it started out in Hraparak as a child when I was there when Lenin's statue went down. So it goes back if we keep going back.
You never know what drives you, right? Absolutely.
Right. But more practically, we started with the student associations, and then in 2008, prior to that, we had projects, IT projects, which would outsource to Armenia, but the system wasn't as established as it is now, so we felt there was a need for us to have our own office, to have our own management team and structure in place to deliver the products. So we started a company called Nexus Lab, which was a web development IT enterprise. We employed close to 25 individuals here, and did so successfully for over 4 or 5 years. So that was the heart of our contribution. It was it was definitely the most gratifying venture that we started with my brother, because to create jobs and workplace security was near and dear to our heart. We'd been in the States for many years, and it was something we wanted to do from day one.
Do you get Braavos, or are you crazies? What do you hear?
We get Braavos, and we get people who are surprised that you can operate an enterprise because they do not know enough about how things are run in Armenia. So, for example, my brother is in the process of writing a book about how to run a business in Armenia, because I think a lot of people are clueless and they imagine, oh, it's far, maybe certain things are not operating as they should be, and therefore I can't invest. Well, that's not true. In fact, we had no issues when we came here. I know it might be shocking, but
did you have connections is the next question.
We had connections, but we did not use any connections. I'll tell you that. We kind of thought it in the back of our minds that if the issues come up, maybe we'll need to use certain connections, but we did everything on our own. Our father has the mindset of, he doesn't like asking anybody for a favor, even if they owe him 100 times more. So it was just our way. We had our vision, our plan, and we put it together, and it went great. In fact, we were praised multiple times over the years by the hեղինակային here, the taxing institutions, for the fact that we're following protocol and everything was done so perfectly and cleanly, paperwork-wise, that we were their exemplary entity as far as paperwork goes.
Do you think that the information about the kinds of things that you do and others do, is it the absence of that information that prevents greater numbers of people getting engaged? What's the obstacle?
I think so. I think it's the absence of the information. It's also the apprehension or certain news getting misconstrued by the time it gets to the diaspora. There might be a disconnect. So it's a mix of things. I'm not saying every field is easy, everything's easy. It's not. In the US, it's not either. When we moved to the US, for example, my father was in the dairy industry here for 20 years, and we moved, and initially we thought of opening a plant, a dairy plant, a large one. And when we inquired, we learned that the dairy industry is operated by 3 major families, and there's a very tight leash on it, and if you want to become a big player, you're going to have major problems. So these factors, it's human nature. It happens in every country. So you just need to do it the right way, and I think there's ways to work in every setting.
We'll keep talking to you both about the successes and the right way because, well, this is an effort to get information out, that's for sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
We've been speaking with Hovanes Margarian, an attorney born in Armenia, working in the US and in Armenia in various directions. And we will continue to keep that dialogue between Armenia and diaspora going. Thank you for following us on CivilNet.